This week I've been dealing with street children and the issues they face whilst out on the street in the local town. And it's a difficult subject to talk about. These boys and girls are not only homeless and hungry, not only have no one to love them, nowhere to sleep, no food in their bellies, often covered in various different types of fungal infections and stuff because of lack of hygiene. Get involved with drugs, but unbelievably, there's even worse things happen to these boys and girls. This week I had to sit and listen to a child tell me that he had been raped by men in the town. It became such a frequent and regular occurrence that it was no longer abuse and rape to him, it was something that happens. So instead of them having to find him, he would go to where this was going on, to be abused. Because that was his physical contact in life, I guess. That was his routine. The young children who were hitting the streets, these men will then take younger boys to that boy, whilst he does things to that child. And thus the vicious cycle continues. And the only way to stop the cycle is to take the children out. And there's no need for these children to suffer like this. All they need is a place to go. If they had a place to go, somewhere safe, where these men can't get to them, they wouldn't have this problem. Good morning. I'm out here having an early morning meditation. And a topic is sitting with me. And that is that Christ has already returned. Christ has returned. But the problem is that the majority of humanity who would hear that term, we are often lured into having a relationship with the image that we have built in thought with that word Christ, with God. We are having a relationship with the image of God in our thoughts. And when we do that, we create a boundary, a barrier between the presence of Christ, the presence of God in our lives. For you to have an actual union with God, you have to be able to have a union with reality that does not involve thought. If you have a relationship with the image of God in thought, then obviously the ability to have the true embrace may be lost, because the image that you have might not be complete. The image in thought of God that you have can't be complete. It's conceptual. The image of God's love, God's care, if it is merely based in your mind and is not something that is reverberating in your cells, not something that you are disappearing into, not something that you are getting lost in every day, then it is merely an understanding of a concept, an agreement to a concept. And you need it in your cells, you need it in your heart. Christ has returned. Now, before I go further into that, let me, for a moment, bring you on this cold morning here in Germany. Let me bring you to the place whereby which you may be able to have an ability to have God access your senses, your awareness, without any image you have of God in your mind interfering with that. That image can only limit the movement of God with you. And so just sit here as I was in meditation this morning with me, just a moment. And first of all, just let the bird song play with your eardrums. Just allow it. Just let it play. Don't label it. Don't try to organize it. Don't try to say the word bird song or identify, if you can, the type of bird singing. Just let it play with your eardrums without your mind trying to organize it, because that bird song is truth. It's a part of truth, and therefore it's a part of the return of Christ. And you must let that truth be. You must let it be without the interference of your mind. You must not form an image of what the bird song is. You must not form an opinion of what the bird song is. You must not form a judgment. And you must not try to get anywhere with the bird song. You just have to let it play with your eardrums. Let my voice do the same thing. And do not try to focus on my words, to organize them. We have a habit of wanting to organize God and truth. But God doesn't need us to organize God. And so let my voice do the same, and you will find yourself relaxing. Now, right now, to look at the return of Christ, you don't need an image. You don't need anything that you identify yourself as. You may have a scientific label that you are human. We don't need that. We'll just put that down. You may have an academic label. You may have a career path label. In my instance, that would be a charity founder. I don't need that for the return of Christ. I can put that down, and you can put yours down. It's not necessary that you hold on to them. I can hear an aeroplane. You can allow that as well, just as you do with the bird song. Let it play with your eardrums. Now, you may have other labels, such as spiritual labels or religious labels. But for a time, as we don't want to organize the way by which God wants to present to us, we can put those down. If you are Christian, if you are Muslim, if you are a follower of the way, you can put those down just for a time. I'm not asking you to abandon them. Excuse me, I'm asking you to make space for the presence of Christ. And as you put all of those down and you witness that you are putting them down, I ask you to come back to the bird song playing with your eardrums and acknowledge that you, if you are doing this correctly, and you are not engaging your memories and your labels, are
merely a loving witness of this present moment. You are a loving witness, a loving awareness of creation. Biblically, Yeshua said to look for him. And I feel in a mystic term, he said, look for the man with a pitcher of water. And when you see him follow him and go into your upper room. Back then, historically, men did not carry pitchers of water. It was a female job. You can say whatever reaction you want about sexism, but this is important for the time of the text. For the man carrying the pitcher of water is Aquarius. And we very recently entered the age of Aquarius. And in that age of Aquarius comes a new consciousness, a new energy that is present in this world. And that energy can be missed if you are having a relationship with the image of God in your mind and not a direct relationship with the return of Christ, which requires no thought. It requires a unity with you and it. It requires the roles that I've just asked you to try and disconnect from a little for a time. It requires that image of self to die for the presence and the union of Christ to be with you. You must be able to come to that space where reality is playing with your eyes and playing with your ears, and you are not dissecting it and labeling it. For at this time the energy of Christ is within that itself, and it speaks to you. It speaks to you on a soul level, and it is wanting to bring you into the evolution of the Christic format of humanity. It wants to return through you and of you. But it can't return through you and be known in your cells if your awareness is not in unity with your cells. If your awareness is playing the game of thought and having a relationship with the image of God in thought, then the awareness is unable to unite with the actuality of God. And at this time where the Christ energy has returned, we must find our way back to that Christ energy. And to find our way back is to find a union with it without thought. It does not mean that you cannot have love for Yeshua. It does not mean that you cannot have love for Christ or wherever your love is directed. It just means that if you want to have Christ in your heart, in your cells, then you must be able to have an unblemished connection with that. And that unblemished connection will only come when you allow birdsong to play with your ears, when you allow the light on the trees to play with your eyes, and you no longer have any label for it or any need to organize it, and in that state you are absolutely bedazzled by its beauty, and with it the beauty and the gift of life that God poured forward. And there you finally feel home, quite importantly. For many in this world are crying out to God because they don't feel home. They have fear, they have anxiety, they have worry, discomfort. But the crying out is the issue, you see. You should be welcoming God in. The kingdom. Many will look, lo here, lo there, but the kingdom is within you. Many are searching the scriptures to find that connection with God, and it's got validity and beauty, don't get me wrong. It's given great comfort to the life of this man sitting here talking at many a time. But Yeshua also said that I am not in the scripture. The scriptures only point to me, and that me is here. And it is in the very ether of creation at this time. And our union with it is dependent. It is dependent on us finding that place that I speak of, where reality plays with you and you do not try to interpret it. For in that space you enter unity with it, and in that unity with creation and the beauty of it, you enter the unity with God, the creator of. And you enter that unity because you recognize that you are a part of it, and you were never separated from it, not even for 1 second, other than your awareness got tripped up in the game of thought, which brought on the illusion that you were separated from it. And here at this time where Christ has returned and is moving in the hearts of man, and more revelations are occurring and truth is being born through the hearts of countless human beings, then wherever Christ is, the adversary is skulking. And at the time of this Christic energy arriving with this beautiful home of ours, this beautiful home earth, we are at a time whereby parties unspoken, parties operating from the shadows, making decisions for the collective that we have made no agreement toward, ironically seem to be spraying the skies with particles and technologies that may be a concerned effort from the adversary to emphasize the point that we are in Aquarius, and Yeshua said, look for the man with the pitcher of water. The man with the pitcher of water is here. You are in the age of Aquarius, and in that age Christ is here and arriving with humanity to grow us, to evolve us, to bring us up into his children, into his presence. And I would hazard a guess that part of these technologies above our heads in the skies are an attempt to limit that evolution and growth, to prolong that evolution long enough to be able to capture our attention. For we are currently in a time where nobody lets the world play with their eyes and their eardrums. Nobody finds that place, because as soon as they sense any notion of boredom, a great gift from God, they are offered 1,000 or more ways to satisfy it. And in satiating their boredom, they are missing even the followers, even the disciples of Christ, are missing that Christ has arrived due to the addiction to the satiation of their boredom. And endlessly now we are being led further and further into the opportunity to externalize ourselves and satiate that boredom with our phones, with the new virtual reality, with the AI systems that are coming. We have never been so vulnerable to externalizing our awareness in the whole of recorded history. And if you just for once, for 3 or 4 days, don't satisfy your boredom with any regular pursuit, don't satisfy it with your phone, with your television, with games, even necessarily with socializing, with substances, with food, drugs. Don't satisfy, don't try to medicate your boredom 3, 4 days, 5 days. And in that time, just allow yourself to let reality play with your senses. And you will see that there is a great, profound joy that exceeds all of those things in that. But to find that, you must stop satiating your boredom. And it seems there is a race between Christ being born in humanity collectively, en masse, and a technological prison being manifest, whereby we will never find that still place where we know that Christ has returned and is ready and willing to work in this world if we would only yield, is ready and willing to work if an opening is found. And the opening cannot be found in a mind that is relating to God and an image of God in thought. There must come a collapse of all of those images so that it can speak to the very heart of all you are. And there is a race between that occurrence happening en masse and the technology being ready to place us in a persistent state of satiating our boredom. Christ is here, and on this beautiful Sunday, this wonderful Sabbath, I hope to remind you all of the extreme gift and hope that is in that. All of your worry and anxiety is for nothing. It's all a deception and a trick. And your prayers will be answered when you remain in the presence of Christ, and the gratitude that relationship gives to you is phenomenal. When Christ is in your heart, you can't help but give thanks. And giving thanks answers prayer. And giving thanks brings us joy. Christ is here. Stop satiating your boredom for a week, and you will know it yourself. Put down the labels, all of them, just for a day, 10 minutes even, and find out the space that is remaining. Find that loving witness that is looking through your eyes. Find that truth that was with you all along. And there you will find the truth of Christ is in the birdsong. And it's in the presence of this day and the sunshine behind me. And it's here because we are at that time where he told us to look for the man with the pitcher of water. He is here. And he is moving in so many lives. But the world is moving against it to stimulate your mind, to excite your mind and your senses, so as you never quite recognize the subtlety of this truth. You cannot find this truth by engaging your thought-based self and its plans and its strategies and its analysis. For it is conditional on the absence of that strategizer within us. It needs space to be born through you. And if it feels right, and you say, yes, I feel that, there's something true about that, now what do I do? That's that strategizer again. Just let it pass. Let the sound of the birdsong play with your eardrums. Just let it play, let it play. Don't organize that truth, let it play. There you will know that Christ is born in the silence that is awoken within us. And that is the spiritual rebirth. I am so certain of it. For nothing brings me closer to God than that. I feel I'm going to be having one of those happy Buddha days. I don't deserve to be so happy. God bless, guys. Bye.